Let's be seated, please. Dumelang. A ke nka re le robetse. Ke re dumelang. Happy Freedom Day, Happy Freedom Day. Program Director, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. The Premier of the Free State, Mercy Sintombela, ministers and deputy ministers, MECs in our province here and from elsewhere, other provinces, the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Ntatele Chisa Tsinodi, the Acting Executive Mayor of Mangaung, Councillor Lebohang Masweta, as well as other councillors who are in our midst, members of the provincial legislature, the traditional leaders who are in our midst, and representatives of various political formations, civil society representatives and leaders, the leadership of our military, the South African National Defence Force, members of the media, and fellow South Africans. I want to especially greet the people of the Free State for the very warm welcome that they have accorded to us as we landed here, as we arrived, and as they saw us. Many of them waving their South African flags. I really want to thank them for having this feeling of celebrating Freedom Day. I am delighted to be here, Mobutshabelo. The initial arrangement had been that we would go elsewhere to Windberg, but because of the logistical arrangements, we had to come here. But as Mayor Mantombela has asked, I will go to Windberg to go and meet the people for Windberg. And I will do it in my lifetime this year. So it is a real joy to be here. It was here in the Free State that many struggles were waged against colonial rule and later against apartheid misrule. It was also here in the Free State that the South African National Native Convention was convened in 1909 by a number of leaders such as John Langalibale Dube and many others. The Free State is the birthplace of the South African Native National Congress, which later became the African National Congress. It was also here in the Free State that the historic African Claims document was adopted in 1943, setting out the demands of South African people for the realization of their rights. And it was the people of the Free State who bore the brunt of racist past laws and who actively resisted these laws. We particularly salute the resistance of the women of the Free State who embarked on a massive campaign of defiance against the past laws in 1913 and a number of years thereafter. This campaign of resistance, particularly by the women here in this province, was led by Charlotte Maxeke, Kati Low, Katrina Simmons, Cecilia Makiwana, and many others. This campaign set in motion a movement that would soon spread throughout the rest of the country. And after Sol Plaatje visited some of the protesters in jail in Kroonstad in 1913, he wrote in the newspaper Tsala ya Batho and said, they are determined, talking about these women, they are determined to fight the past laws no matter where they might be. They are fighting for the freedom of women in the Free State. They don't care even if they die in jail. That was the courage of the women of the Free State as described by Sol Plaatje. It was this courage that inspired future generations of women to fight against the past system. In a similar way as the women of 1913, the women in 1956 mobilized themselves, and 20,000 of them marched to the union buildings to fight against this unjust system. They were prepared to resist, and there was nothing that was going to stop them. They stood for what was right, but not for themselves, but for their fellow men and women. And it is for this reason that we say, Mbokodo, we salute you. We honor you, and we thank you for the struggles that we waged to get our country to where it is today. The freedom that we enjoy today, that we celebrate on the 27th of April, is in large measure the result of the struggles that were waged by the women of our country. In saluting the role played by women in our struggle, I am glad that the Ministry of Social Development and the Free State Government have created a legacy project in honor of Charlotte Maxeke through the establishment of the Charlotte Maxeke Treatment Center to address the psychosocial challenges our people face here in Botshabelo. I would like to applaud and congratulate Minister Lindiwe Zulu and our Premier here, Mema Ntombela, for the vision that they have displayed in creating this historic monument in honor of Mema Maxeke. Thank you very much for this. We will continue to build monuments to remember the heroes of our struggle. We will continue to honor those who fought for freedom. We will continue to create all these statues that will make us remember from where we've come from, but that will also be a great history lesson for those who will come after us. We also salute the men and the women of this great nation whose sacrifices have made it possible for us to be here today. We salute today's generation of men and women who have taken up the cause of freedom, who have taken up the cause of equality, non-racialism, non-sexism, and human rights for all. They are the worthy inheritors of the baton of struggle passed to them by those who came before us. This year marks 27 years since we attained our freedom from apartheid misrule. On this day, we recall the historic events of the 27th of April 1994, when we voted for the first time. On this day, 27 years ago, we closed the chapter of the horror story of apartheid. Nelson Mandela, the father of our nation, took the salute from a unified defense force we now call the South African National Defense Force. The meaning of this new order is always so beautifully displayed by the new generation of soldiers who represent the diversity of our country, as we saw today when Major Vundla, Lieutenant Vilakazi were flying the Gripens, the mighty jet fighters of our nation, and Major Nzuta and Major Peterson were flying the Hawks. Now, this is a clear representation of the change that has taken place in our nation. In the past, these jets would have been flown just by white people. Today, there are black young soldiers who are flying these fighter jets. Under apartheid, this would never have been thought of or seen. Much as they are all men who flew today, we know that there are also young women who fly these lethal fighter jets. Now, I want to say to our commanding officers in the SANDF, do make sure that we see more and more women in key roles in the defense force. Because we know they are there. The entire nation was filled with pride when we saw Major Mandi Samfeka flying the Hercules during the inauguration. We want to see more women rising to high positions in the military just as men do. There are celebrations taking place across the nation, and we will be waving the national flag and singing our national anthem. Minister Nathi Mthethwa, in being overwhelmed by the beauty of this celebration today, whispered to me a few minutes ago and said, President, we must make these national celebrations bigger and bigger so that they can get more and more of our people to participate so that we can consolidate the identity of all of us as South Africans, because this is what forms a nation. We must celebrate our National Day like Freedom Day because it was hard fought for. We got here through the struggles of those who have come before us, and we must celebrate this day and celebrate their lives as well. And Minister Mthethwa, I agree with you. You now have an order to go ahead and do it. We will share stories with the younger generation of where we were on that day, because they need to hear where we were on the 27th of April in 1994. They will want to hear, what were you doing on that day? But they will also want to hear, what were you doing before that day? They will also want to hear our experience as we stood in the voting lines and queues. Today we have a country where all enjoy human rights and freedoms. We have a constitution that is a shield and a protection for all South Africans. We've made great progress towards realizing the rights of our people to a better life and advancing human dignity. And yet, even as we have lived in a democratic country for the past 27 years, we know that across many parts of our country, the promise of 1994 has yet to be fulfilled. Millions of South Africans still live in conditions of poverty and deprivation. For those who continue to suffer from the lack of basic services like running water, for those living without proper sanitation, as many of our people live under such conditions here in Botshabelo, for those living in fear every day from violence and crime, and for those who have no jobs to support themselves and their freedom and their families, true freedom still remains elusive. The legacy of apartheid remains a defining feature of our land. Even after nearly 3 decades, it continues in many ways to determine where people will live, what assets they own, what schooling they receive, and what jobs they can do, and how safe they feel. As we celebrate this Freedom Day, we can point to the great progress that we have made in confronting the legacy of apartheid. From the provision of water, electricity to millions, to opening the doors of learning to the children of our country, particularly the poor, to the provision of health care, to lifting millions of our people out of abject poverty. But we cannot celebrate Freedom Day without acknowledging how much further we still need to go. We cannot deceive ourselves and say, yes, we are free at last, without knowing and acknowledging that there is still a lot of work we need to do to improve the lives of our people. It cannot be that 27 years into our democracy, that our people are being deprived of even the most basic services like water and sanitation because of poor planning, incompetence of some of us, mismanagement, or corruption of some of us. It cannot be that access to housing, education, and decent health care is being undermined because those tasked with service delivery do not care enough. Our people expect that those who have been tasked with the job of improving their lives should do just that. And they should not steal the resources that belong to our people and put them in their own pockets. A continued practice of stealing the resources, abusing the resources, diverting the resources, and wasting the resources is an affront against our people, and our people deserve better. They deserve the best that this country can give. So it is on such a day that we need to reflect on some of those missteps. It is on a day like this that we need to remind those that we have put, that you, the people of South Africa, have put into key positions, that their preoccupation must be the people of South Africa and not themselves. In exactly 6 months from today, we will be holding our 6th local government elections since the advent of democracy. We will be going to the polls at an immensely difficult time in the life of our country. The COVID-19 pandemic continues to have a devastating impact, not only on public health, but on our economy. But ba heso ba bangata ba lahlehetswe ke mesebetsi. Ba bangata ba lapa malapeng a bona. A bana dijo, a bana mesebetsi. Koduwa ena e etsahetseng mona South Africa, la e etsahetse dinaheng tse ngata, ka nnete re kentse mathateng. Bao ba di business ba na le di business tsa bona, ba bangata ba bona ba fumane hore ba tlameile hore ba kwale di business tsa bona. Families are struggling to make ends meet. The task of rebuilding our society and our country indeed is a great one. Every South African will need to be part of the great effort to restore our economy to health, to create more jobs, and to grow more businesses through the economic reconstruction and recovery plan that we announced. Every South African will need to remain part of the fight to overcome COVID-19. We are still in the midst of the pandemic, and the likelihood of a third wave of infections remains ever present. This means that we cannot let our guard down even for a moment. We need to continue to practice all the measures that we've been talking about: the social distancing, washing of hands, and making sure that we are not congested in closed spaces. We must continue, yes, to wear masks, and I'm glad to see that all the people who are here today are wearing masks. We must do so whenever we're in public spaces, and we need to continue to observe all the measures. If we remain vigilant, if we exercise caution, if we act responsibly, we should be able to delay a resurgence of infections and maybe even be fortunate enough that there is no resurgence, and we should be able to save more lives. In the coming weeks, we will be launching the second phase of our national vaccination program, which will focus on the most vulnerable in our population. We had stopped the Johnson & Johnson vaccine for a while, whilst our scientists and health experts were determining the efficacy and the safety of this vaccine. Minister of Finance, Dr. Maxeke, recently announced that we are going to commence, and the commencement, I think, starts today or tomorrow. We will now be continuing with the vaccination program for our health workers, and thereafter embark on the second phase. Vaccinating our people is a massive undertaking that will need the support and the participation of all South Africans. In its size and complexity, in its reach and impact, the national vaccination program will be similar in many ways to the first democratic election that we held 27 years ago on this day. The success of this vaccination program is vital not only to overcoming the coronavirus pandemic, but also to enabling us to continue with our struggle for the realization of the rights of all South Africans. Democracy rests on the beliefs of free will and free choice. Our vote is the most potent weapon, the most effective weapon through which we can improve our lives and transform our communities. Whether you are in a village or a town or a city or a metro or on a farm, I call on you to exercise your right in the upcoming local government elections. I call on you to decide who amongst the many candidates has the ability and the determination to work tirelessly on your behalf. I call on you to determine the future of your own family and your community by putting your confidence in those parties that have the best policies and the will and the means to implement them. And I call on you to demonstrate with your vote your intolerance for corruption, for theft, for mismanagement of the funds that are meant for the benefit of you, the citizen of our country, the citizen of our province, the citizen of our local government. These elections are an opportunity to make your voice heard and to be part of the change that you yourself want to see. Of the many great facets of democracy is that we are able to exercise our right to protest. Our Constitution gives all of us the right to assembly, the right to protest as well. But when we resort to violent demonstrations, when we resort to burning, looting, and the destruction of property, we are undermining the very cause that we seek to advance. We are also undermining the democracy that our Constitution offers to all of us. Exercising our right to vote is by far the most powerful form of protest. If those who claim to serve you are not doing so, vote them out. Take them out. Because that is the one weapon that we all have. Demonstrate to them that you don't approve of the way they are running things. If they are stealing money, vote them out and take them out. If they are abusing your resources, take them out through the vote. Over the passage of time, our democracy has grown and it has matured. So too should our approach to exercising this important right be so. Let us be guided by our loyalty alone. And our loyalty should be to our country. Our loyalty should only be reserved to that one country that we all share. The struggles waged by our forebears were not for themselves alone, they were for the generations yet to come. And today we are the inheritors. We are reaping the fruits and the seeds rather that they planted. we are now reaping all those wonderful fruits. And we must respect the struggles that they waged to bring us here. We must take a firm stand against the social ills that prevent the men and the women and children of South Africa from living lives of freedom. We must take a firm stand against violence that is perpetrated against women and children. We must speak out and report any instances of gender-based violence, even if the perpetrators are close to us. As a country, we must say no to homophobia and all forms of intolerance against members of the LGBTQI+ community. Over the past few months, there have been a series of terrible crimes that have been committed against members of this community, including murder. This is something of which we as a nation should be deeply ashamed of. I want to send a strong message that hate crime will not be tolerated in our society, and that those who are behind these crimes will be found and be brought to book. Nobody has the right to take the life and abuse someone else because of their sexual orientation. No one has that right at all. Fellow South Africans, many have paid the ultimate price so that we are able to breathe the clean air of freedom today. Over the years, we have encountered and overcome many challenges, but there are still many challenges that we are yet to overcome. These are problems common to all of us, and they impact on all of us. But like those who came before us, we understand that no challenge is too great that it cannot be overcome. The democratic breakthrough of 1994 liberated black South Africans from the tyranny of apartheid. But it also liberated white South Africans from the shackles of untruth and the false belief in racial superiority. This is because we chose the path of non-racialism, of reconciliation, of national unity, of creating a new nation from the ashes of apartheid, and we chose the path of peace. After 27 years, we are still striving to be a South Africa that belongs to all who live in it, be they black or white, man or woman, rural dweller or urban dweller, able-bodied or living with disability, regardless of their beliefs, their language, or their sexual orientation. Let us acknowledge and let us appreciate, and more importantly, let us celebrate the diversity of this country, for it is what makes us who we are. We are who we are because of the diverse nature of our nation. We may come from different backgrounds and different regions in our country, but we call ourselves South Africans with pride. We call ourselves South Africans living in the most beautiful country on earth. What is needed of us now is that we hold fast to the rope of unity as we confront our many challenges. And we have many challenges. And this past 2 years, as the pandemic started, our challenges just increased and were compounded by the pandemic. We are living through those challenges, but we will overcome. We will get over these challenges. It is the responsibility and duty of every South African who believes in this country and wants it to succeed, to believe that yes, we will overcome our challenges, but also to work together to have us overcome these challenges. Let us not abandon hope that we can become the country of our forebears fought for. Our forebears envisaged a South Africa that would be free, non-racial, non-sexist, and prosperous for all. Let us not give in to doubt and pessimism. Let us keep striving to address our challenges. Step by step, brick by brick, let us build this great nation together. That is what history demands of us, that as South Africans, we must be united in building this country brick by brick, person by person, until all our dreams have been fulfilled. Wherever you are today, I wish you a happy Freedom Day. Modimo aboloke setjhaba sa heso, Hosi katekisa Afrika Dzonga, Nkosi sikelela iAfrika, Mudzimu baphathuchedze Afrika Chipembe, God seën South Africa, and God bless our beautiful country, South Africa, and protect her people. Ke a leboga.
Thank you very much, President Cyril Ramaphosa, ka message o re fileng ona.